محمد رسول الله لا إله إلا الله علي ولي الله.
Now you may be surprised to learn that Muslims aren't the only ones with awkward greeting formalities. Virtually every society has different greeting etiquette. Pour exemple, in Japan, in informal settings, they bow instead of shaking hands. In Thailand, they place their palms together at chest level and nod. In Russia, they kiss a woman's hand instead of shaking it. So you can imagine our surprise when, of all other weirdos out there, Muslims are singled out exclusively in this little storm in a teacup. First off, as we've explained, different cultures have different customs. They have nothing to do with misogyny or gender stereotypes. They're simply meant to draw boundaries and accommodate personal sensitivities. Now, I know what you're thinking. All the examples I've cited have to do with different countries. So you say, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But you have to understand, to us, this isn't about national borders, but about intrinsic values and religious beliefs, much like Jewish customs, which are strikingly similar. Orthodox Jews also don't shake hands for religious reasons. It's a part of Nagiya, where in accordance with halakha law, physical contact with a member of the opposite sex is strictly forbidden. Knowing this makes it easy to pick up the morbid stench of hypocrisy of some pundits who unabashedly exempt other cultures, then go on to unleash their hatred squarely at Muslims. A barrage of articles were published recently basically arguing that because they've chosen to live in Australia, Muslims must abide by some vague notion of what's considered Australian. In many of these posts, the writers basically said, sure, Jews have similar laws, but let's focus on Islam simply because there are more Muslims than Hasidic Jews. They also posited that Muslims refuse to assimilate and are essentially anti-women. So, here's a quick question. Would you dare say the same about Orthodox Jews? Would you dare proclaim that Jews refuse to assimilate and that they reject handshakes because, as one commentator put it, they hate the gender of the person those hands are attached to? Go on. Write a piece berating Jewish practices too. Didn't think so. By the way, Muslim women also don't shake hands with men. Are women showing contempt or some ingrained prejudice against men? Are women being female chauvinists? Will you force them to touch men now because they're obligated to, quote, assimilate? Besides, how is relinquishing religious practices which harm literally no one a test for integration? This is exactly why racists and bigots go from hating one group to another in constant perpetuity. The Italians, the Irish, the Scots, the Jews, the Japanese, the Chinese, and now the Muslims. Don't you ever get tired of hating? What's with all the bitterness and racial rancor? Is there no end to the self-righteous hubris of the superior race? Do you always need an antagonist to make you feel good? Maybe get some Xanax to help you calm down. If you have trouble appreciating the subtle nuances of people's faith and showing tolerance towards their personal beliefs, pick up a book instead of spewing toxic vitriol. If someone doesn't want to touch you, maybe respect their wishes. Oh, and I love it when Islamophobes say not shaking hands is un-Australian or un-American. Seriously? Being a good citizen is predicated on forcing women to touch you? Next thing you know, immigration forms will add a question to bar anyone who has ever refused to shake hands. Incidentally, how about the fact that protocols governing British royalty mandate a strict, quote, no touching rule when greeting the Queen?
No touching! No touching! No touching!
Meaning that you should never make first physical contact or shake her hand. So if Muslim men treat women the exact same way that you treat your queen, that makes us un-Australian or un-American? And speaking of, turns out that handshaking is not part of Aboriginal culture. In fact, the native peoples of Canada, Australia, and New Zealand generally don't shake hands, even if offered, and instead stick to verbal greetings. So why don't Muslims shake hands with the opposite gender? Well, what can I say? I mean, we have some strict rules on sexual purity and physical interactions. In fact, our religious scriptures say, and I quote, if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to go into hell. Wait, I'm sorry. It looks like there's been a mistake. I had the wrong reference for the verse. It's not in the Quran, but the Bible, Matthew 5:29 to 30. It's starting to make sense. This is probably why Trump had this awkward encounter with the German Chancellor Angela Merkel. Thank you. But seriously, the real reason Muslim men and women don't shake hands is to maintain chastity and avoid falling into a slippery slope that may fan the flames of temptation. Islam teaches that lust and sensuality should be confined, unleashed to its maximum extent between husband and wife, and that anything that may arouse desire, even if seemingly innocuous as a handshake, should be avoided out of respect for each other's private space. So be respectful, be courteous, but do so without touching. But we all know why this is happening. Muslims make a great punching bag. So keep throwing those sucker punches and demonize us simply for being different. Keep going at it as right-wing bigots most certainly will, so long as it feeds into popular paranoia and bolsters their political scoreboard. This is why spiteful politicians like the Dutch Geert Wilders have "Stop Islam" as his campaign slogan. Sure, because the Netherlands doesn't have any problems, because Australia's indigenous people don't suffer from poverty, because substance abuse and family breakups only happen in movies. So let's all focus on the biggest threat facing human civilization: Islamic table manners and handshaking etiquette. Try to go. Also, some of us have disabilities. Show photo of the lunatic with the hook. That's Pirates of the Caribbean. What else? By the way, what if handshaking customs involved more than a simple handshake?